Hello, my fellow Durgareens. Today we're going to be talking about Kirby's Dream Land 2. I know, I can't believe they made a sequel to Kirby's Dream Land, even though the sequel to Kirby's Dream Land is actually Kirby's Adventure, but whatever. The first two Kirby games were very successful, and so Nintendo decided to make another one. The first Kirby game was called Kirby's Dream Land and was released in 1992 for the Game Boy, and in 1993 the sequel was released for the NES called Kirby's Adventure. Kirby's Adventure, released in 1993 for the NES, was kinda weird as by the time the SNES was already out. The next Kirby game was released in 1995 for the Game Boy. So the Kirby franchise took a step back in technology, but I guess Nintendo thought Kirby worked best on the Game Boy, as there were so many Kirby spin-offs on the Game Boy with how short and simple Kirby games are. I guess that's why Nintendo thought it was best to put Kirby on the Game Boy. That's probably why the next Kirby game released on the Game Boy. But they did release Kirby Superstar in the same month the Nintendo 64 release, so I don't really know what's going on in Nintendo's mind. Kirby's Dream Land 2 was one of the few games that got enhanced and played on the Super Game Boy for the SNES. The Super Game Boy was an add-on for the SNES, which allowed the SNES to play Game Boy games, and some games got benefits when played with the Super Game Boy, like Donkey Kong 94, which when played on the Super Game Boy, it got a unique border and color, and so did other games. Well, it's Kirby time. Kirby's Dream Land 2 plays and looks very similar to Kirby's Dream Land. This game does not look as graphically good as Kirby's Adventure, but that's to be expected as this game is being played on inferior hardware. Also, in Kirby's Dream Land, it had 5 stages, but in this game, there's 7 levels of stages in them. Kirby can do almost everything he did before except he can't slide. Also, since Kirby's Adventure introduced the copy ability, this game and almost every Kirby game since has Kirby with the copy ability. But in Kirby's Adventure, there were like 25 abilities. Here, however, there are only like 8, with 7 of those being from Kirby's Adventure. The story here follows Kirby on his quest to get all the rainbow bridges that have been stolen by something called dark matter. All the bridges connect the Rainbow Islands. This dark matter thing has also possessed King Dedede and now attempts to conquer Dreamland or something, so now Kirby has to stop him, I think. We start our amazing journey in Grassland. Before each level plays a small cutscene where Kirby and his friends are up to some hijinks. There's really nothing that interesting to this level. It's just a standard easy grass level. But here we meet our first animal friend. This game introduces these animal friends which help you throughout the game. There are 3 here, and they're called Rick the Hamster, Coo the Owl, and Kind the Ocean Sunfish. They appear in a room where you fight a mini-boss, or sometimes a standard enemy, and once you defeat the boss, and you will be able to use your animal friends. There are also 2 other animal friends, sort of. One called Gooey, and who is this guy, and a female version of him. These 2 only give you extra health, and that's really it. These animal friends can be helpful, like how Rick is fast, Coo can push through the wind, and Kind swims better underwater. When Kirby has an ability, he can combine it with one of these guys and create different abilities. It's not exactly like how it is in Kirby 64, where in the game you can also combine 2 different abilities. Here you have to have one of your animal friends, and some are just slight variations, but sometimes you can get a unique one. For example, if Kirby has a spark ability and has Rick, they can do a beam attack, which was in Kirby's Adventure. And this is the only way to get this ability. In all the stages, there are mini stars that fill up a meter. When the meter is filled up, you get a 1-up. The boss in this level is our good old friend Wispy Woods, who wears a mask with glasses at first, and then it comes off. Wispy Woods is very easy, and I have killed him again for the 3rd time. Take that, nature. We move on to the next level that called a Big Forest. Spoilers, it's not big, but it's bigger than In this level, we also meet our next animal friend, Coo the Owl. Like I said, Coo helps Kirby move in the air more easier. The boss of this level is Nerf and Nelly, and they're kind of similar to Lololo and Lalala. The stage layout and the way Nerf and Nelly attack you by running towards you are like Lololo and Lalala. Nerf and Nelly are also the second boss in this game. Oh yeah, they're also a boar. The 3rd level is Ripple Field, and since most of the stages in this level are water themed, we meet Kind the Ocean Sunfish. Since he's a fish, he obviously moves better underwater since he can swim. And when on land, he's slower than my car. Kino reminds me of the frog suit from Super Mario Bros. 3, as they are excellent when swimming, but absolutely shit on land. After swimming our way to the boss called Sweet Stuff, spoiler alert, he's not very sweet, sorry, we eventually stumble upon the iceberg that sank the Titanic. This level has a lot of ice because it's an iceberg. No way. Since it's an ice level, we have Kirby slipping and sliding all over the place. The boss for this level is an ice dragon who shoots a freeze ray. The bosses in this game are fine, but they're not really that hard. I may have died a little too much, but I can shrug it off. Maybe. Kirby goes to the canyon that's red. This level is fine, but it took me 50 hours to get this rainbow drop. A rainbow drop is a collectible that I'll talk more about later. And Stage 5 has a very interesting layout. Then we meet our good old friends Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright from Kirby's Adventure. The pair are very similar on how they were in Kirby's Adventure. We again kill the sun and the moon and head off to Cloudy Park. Most of the stages take place in the clouds. Surprising, I know. After going through these stages, we see another one of our old pals, Crackle and Crackle Jr. We start the battle with fighting Crackle Jr. Crackle Jr. flies around and merges into the ground. Crackle Jr. then turns into the one and only Crackle and the second phase begins. Then Kirby kills a cracky cloud again because he's nice like that. Kirby and the gang head off to the final level, Dark Castle. Now I think you might have noticed that I haven't really been talking that much about the stages. And that's probably because there's nothing really that much to talk about. I mean, these stages are good, but they're like kind of forgettable. I mean, this level has a few stages where you realize you're playing on the Game Boy and can't see what's ahead of you, and so you die. But that only happens like, what, 2 times. After finishing all the stages, Kirby heads out to fight King Dedede, who is currently possessed. After dying an embarrassing amount of times, I finally defeat King Dedede and then credits. Well, it looks like I beat Kirby's Dream Land 2. But wait, I've been really beating Kirby's Dream Land 2. You see, this game has a collectible called Rainbow Drops that are in one stage for all levels, and this game also has 2 endings. To get the true ending, you need to have gotten all 7 of the Rainbow Drops. Okay, so I finally got all the Rainbow Drops. Some of them were easy to get, while others were not so easy. Like, to get the Rainbow Drop in level 6-2, you need to bring Kind with you from another level, get the Spark ability, then break these blocks. It's also easy to break them if you have Brick with you, but I don't. Get Ku, defeat this mini boss to get the Cutter ability, dodge these spiky things called Gordos, and then enter this, and then presto, the Rainbow Drop is yours. Epic. After getting all the Rainbow Drops, I head back to the final boss, but this time when Dedede is defeated, Kirby does a little exorcism and the dark matter goes into space. Kirby chases after him and now using this rainbow sword. I kept dying at this boss, so at first I thought of hitting dark matter with my sword, but it does very, very little damage, and then I died like 50 times. So then, what you're supposed to do to make it easier is, dark matter will shoot these like star things. Dark matter will shoot these projectiles at you, which you have to deflect with your sword, and that will do a ton of damage. Anyway, after giving dark matter a black eye, the second phase appears and he's big, mad, and then in that another 50 times. Alright, so here he just flies around and like shoots the star things, and then he shoots the projectiles, and you're supposed to like deflect them to hit him, and then I eventually did it. Anyway, so we eventually defeat dark matter, Kirby falls from the sky, and then credits. So that's Kirby's Dream Land 2 for you. There are a few extras, like one where you collect these mini stars from the bosses and you can only get hit once. This is a good game, but it's kind of forgettable. It's still a fun game, but there are better games like Kirby's Adventure. I do still think that this game is better than the first Kirby's Dream Land. This is also the first in the Dark Matter trilogy, which has 3 games. Crazy, I know. These 3 games are Kirby's Dream Land 2, Kirby's Dream Land 3, and Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards. And all these games, Dark Matter is the main antagonist. Well, that's the end of this video. Bye bye.